My dad banned me from mom's birthday because of my sister's successful boyfriend, until he saw me on video call and said, "Hello, boss." Now their apologies mean nothing to me. I, 28 have always been the black sheep of my family. Growing up, I was constantly compared to my sister, who excelled at everything she touched. While she brought home straight A's and trophies, I struggled with academics and preferred working with my hands. My parents, especially my dad, made it clear who the favorite was. After high school, I didn't go to college like my sister. Instead, I started working at a construction company, learning the trade from the ground up. My dad never missed an opportunity to remind me how disappointed he was that I didn't make something of myself, like my sister, who went to a prestigious university. Over the years, the divide grew wider. I moved out as soon as I could afford it and limited contact with my family to occasional phone calls with my mom and mandatory holiday gatherings. I worked hard, saved money, and eventually started my own construction business. It wasn't glamorous, but I was proud of what I'd built from nothing. Not that my family knew or cared. They stopped asking about my work years ago. Last month, my mom called to invite me to her birthday dinner. I was surprised since these family gatherings usually involved my dad making subtle digs at my career choices while praising my sister's accomplishments. But it was my mom's birthday, and I love her despite everything, so I agreed. 2 days before the dinner, my dad called. "Look, your sister is bringing her new boyfriend to your mom's birthday. He's a successful executive at a major firm, and she really wants to make a good impression. I think it would be better if you didn't come." I was stunned. "You're uninviting me from mom's birthday?" "It's not like that," he said, though it was exactly like that. "Your sister hasn't brought anyone home in years, and this guy is really important. We don't want anything to complicate things." By complicate, I knew he meant me, my work clothes, my calloused hands, my lack of a degree. I was a complication to their perfect family image. "Does mom know you're uninviting me?" I asked. There was a pause. "She understands it's for the best." That hit hard. Even my mom had chosen my sister over me. I hung up without another word, feeling that familiar ache of being the family disappointment. On the night of my mom's birthday, I sat alone in my apartment, nursing a beer and feeling sorry for myself. Then my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. "Miss you, honey. Wish you were here." I was confused. Did she not know I'd been uninvited? I called her immediately, but she didn't pick up. Instead, she texted back, "Can't talk now. At restaurant. We'll call later." An hour later, my phone rang. It was a video call from my mom. I answered and saw her smiling face. "Happy birthday, Mom," I said, forcing a smile. "Thank you, sweetheart. I wish you could have made it. Your dad said you had to work." My stomach dropped. So that was the story they'd gone with. Before I could respond, my mom continued, "Everyone's here. Let me show you." She turned the camera around, panning across the table at an upscale restaurant. There was my dad, looking uncomfortable as the camera moved toward him. My sister sat next to him, beaming with pride. And beside her was a man in an expensive suit who looked vaguely familiar. When the boyfriend saw me on the screen, his eyes widened in shock. "Hello, boss," he exclaimed automatically. The table fell silent. My sister's smile vanished. My dad's jaw dropped. That successful executive my sister was dating? He was one of my project managers, hired just 6 months ago. He was good at his job, but he certainly wasn't an executive. He reported directly to me at my now very successful construction company. My mom, oblivious to the tension, asked, "You two know each other?" Before anyone could stop him, my employees said, "Of course. He's the owner of the company. Best boss I've ever had." I watched as my family's faces transformed from shock to embarrassment. My sister looked like she wanted to disappear. My dad couldn't meet my eyes through the screen. "I should go," I said quietly. "Enjoy your dinner, Mom. Happy birthday." I hung up before anyone could respond. My phone immediately started buzzing with texts and calls, but I ignored them all. The truth was finally out, but it didn't feel as satisfying as I thought it would. The next morning, I had dozens of missed calls and messages. My sister had texted, "Why didn't you tell us about your company?" My dad had left several voicemails, each one more apologetic than the last. My mom had sent a long message saying she never knew I'd been uninvited and was heartbroken. I didn't respond to any of them. What was there to say? For years, they'd made assumptions about me without ever asking about my life. They decided I was a failure and treated me accordingly. Finding out I was successful didn't change who I was. It just changed how they saw me. And that wasn't enough anymore. A week later, my dad showed up at my office. The receptionist called to ask if I wanted to see him, and after a moment's hesitation, I agreed. He looked smaller somehow as he stood in my office doorway, taking in the view of the city from my corner office, the awards on the wall, the photos of major projects my company had completed. "I had no idea," he said finally. "You never asked," I replied. He nodded, acknowledging the truth of it. "I'm sorry. For everything. For the dinner, for the way I've treated you all these years. Would you be here apologizing if I was still just a construction worker? I asked. Or does my worth as your son depend on my bank account? He flinched but didn't answer. He didn't need to. We both knew the truth. Your mom misses you, he said after a while. We all do. Can we start over? I thought about it for a long moment. I don't know, Dad. I really don't know. He left shortly after, and I sat at my desk for a long time, thinking about family and worth and what it means to be seen. I still haven't decided if I'll give them another chance. Some wounds run too deep to heal with a simple apology, especially when that apology only came after they discovered I wasn't the failure they'd always assumed I was. For now, I'm focusing on my company and the people who valued me all along, not for what I have, but for who I am. Maybe someday I'll be ready to let my family back in, but it's too late for things to ever be the same again. Update 1. It's been 3 weeks since the birthday dinner incident, and I've had some time to process everything. The calls and texts from my family eventually slowed down when they realized I wasn't responding, but then something unexpected happened. My employee, my sister's boyfriend, came into my office looking extremely uncomfortable. He apologized profusely for the situation and explained that he and my sister had only been dating for a month. She had asked about his job, and he'd mentioned working for a successful construction company. Apparently, my sister and parents had filled in the blanks themselves, assuming he was in management. He never claimed to be an executive. That was their assumption because they couldn't imagine someone being proud to work in construction otherwise. I really like your sister, he said, but I feel caught in the middle of something I don't understand. I assured him his job wasn't in jeopardy. This wasn't his fault, and he's still one of my best project managers. I even gave him permission to tell my sister the truth about his position if he wanted to. He seemed relieved and thanked me before leaving. 2 days later, my mom showed up at my apartment unannounced. When I opened the door, she was standing there with tears in her eyes and a photo album in her hands. I brought pictures, she said quietly, of your projects, the ones you sent me over the years that I never showed your father. I let her in, and we sat on my couch as she opened the album. Inside were all the photos I'd texted her of job sites, completed buildings, and my growing team. She had printed them out and labeled each one with dates and descriptions. I was always proud of you, she whispered. I just didn't stand up to your father when I should have. I let him decide how our family worked, and that was wrong. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to forgive her instantly, but another part still felt the sting of betrayal. Why did you let Dad uninvite me? I finally asked. She looked down, ashamed. He told me you couldn't make it because of work. I only found out the truth after the video call. We had a huge fight that night. We talked for hours. Really talked, maybe for the first time in years. She asked about my company, how I built it, what challenges I faced. She listened in a way my family never had before. Before she left, she said, your sister wants to talk to you. She's not as bad as you think. She's been living under your father's expectations too, just in a different way. I promised to think about it, but made no commitments. Update 2. Yesterday, I finally agreed to meet my sister for coffee. She was already there when I arrived, nervously shredding a napkin. I broke up with him, she said as soon as I sat down. Because he works for me? I asked, feeling a flash of anger. No, she exclaimed. Because he lied to me. He let me believe he was higher up in the company than he is. I sighed. Did he actually lie? Or did you just assume? She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it again. After a moment, she admitted, I guess I assumed. And maybe I wanted to impress Dad, so I didn't ask too many questions. That was more self-awareness than I expected from her. He's a good guy, I told her. And he's great at his job. The fact that he's not an executive doesn't make him any less worthy. She nodded slowly. I know that now. And I know that about you too. I'm sorry I never stood up for you with Dad. We talked about growing up under our father's expectations. I learned that while I was being criticized for not measuring up, she was constantly terrified of failing to meet the impossibly high bar he'd set. Different sides of the same toxic coin. I've been seeing a therapist, she confessed. Dad's disappointed, of course. He thinks therapy is for weak people. But after what happened at Mom's birthday, I realized how messed up our family dynamic is. By the end of our conversation, I felt like I was seeing my sister clearly for the first time in years. We weren't as different as I'd thought. Update 3. It's been 2 months since the birthday incident, and things have changed in ways I never expected. My sister and I have been meeting regularly, rebuilding our relationship one conversation at a time. She's even shown interest in my business, asking thoughtful questions about how construction projects come together. My mom calls weekly now, and we talk about real things, not just surface-level pleasantries. She started standing up to my dad more, finding her voice after decades of deferring to him. As for my dad, that's more complicated. He sent a formal letter of apology, typed and signed like a business contract. It was stiff and awkward, but it was something. Last week, he asked if he could see one of my job sites. I agreed, and we spent an afternoon walking through a commercial building my company is constructing. He asked questions and actually listened to my answers. At one point, I caught him looking at me with something that might have been pride. "You've built something impressive here," he said as we were leaving. "I was wrong about you. About a lot of things." It wasn't a Hollywood moment of reconciliation. There was no tearful hug or instant healing, but it was a start. I'm still cautious. Trust, once broken, doesn't mend easily, but I'm giving them a chance to show me who they can be, now that the pretenses have fallen away. The irony isn't lost on me that my family only started to see my worth after discovering my financial success. But what's changed isn't just their perception of my accomplishments. It's their willingness to look beyond their own assumptions and actually see me. I don't know what the future holds for my relationship with my family. Some days I'm hopeful. Other days the old hurt feels too deep to overcome. But I'm taking it one day at a time, setting boundaries where needed and opening doors where possible. One thing's for certain. I'll never again let anyone make me feel less than I am. Success isn't measured by degrees or job titles. It's built through hard work, integrity, and staying true to yourself, even when those who should support you the most are the ones who believe in you the least.